Permission was granted from the individual to utilize the pictures in the video for educational purposes. This video discusses the process of fabricating an orthotic device for a specific case and is based on the individual's specific injury and post-op protocol. The objectives for this orthosis and video are to explain the purpose and indications for a static forearm-based MP extension orthosis, review general protocols utilized for extensor tendon repairs, discuss a specific case study of an individual with an extensor tendon injury, and discuss the steps involved with fabricating a static forearm-based MP extension orthosis. The purpose of this orthosis is to protect the healing extensor tendons, or other associated structures. It looks to improve PIP joint range of motion and to prevent joint stiffness. So who would benefit from this type of orthosis? Individuals with an extensor tendon repair, zones 5 or 6, individuals with a fixation of any metacarpal in the area of zones 5 or 6, or individuals with joint stiffness of any digit. There are many different protocols out there, and they're dependent on many factors. Some of these factors include the type of repair, the number of sutures used for the repair, patient compliance, etc. There's a lot of factors that dictate what protocol to use. And some common protocols that clinicians reference after an extensor tendon repair are as follows. An immobilization protocol is mainly for zones 1 or 2 extensor tendon injuries. This type of protocol prevents too much tension on the tendon, and it allows adhesion formation during the immobilization period, but usually has delayed tension strength for the tendon. An early passive motion protocol focuses on passive flexion of the involved digits up to about week 4, and there may be some adhesion formation. You need to be careful and watch for a possible extensor lag. This is when active extension is less than passive extension, and it is a big complication after this type of repair that could be due to a re-ruptured tendon, an adherent tendon, or an attenuated tendon, meaning a gap in the tendon. And lastly, an early active motion protocol promotes fewer adhesions due to the early motion, has a better healing rate for the tendon, has improved tensile strength for the tendon, and is a faster recovery during the rehab process. Now, looking at the literature, there's a lot of evidence supporting these protocols, and a systematic review in 2017 looked at early active and early passive motion protocols, and they were looking at which ones would be more beneficial for those with an extensor tendon repair. The review concluded that early active motion protocols had better outcomes than passive, and they looked specifically at the difference between these two types of early active motion protocols. So specifically, these are a controlled active motion protocol, CAM, and a protocol that utilizes a relative motion extension orthosis, RMES. A controlled active motion protocol includes a more restrictive orthosis, meaning it allows less motion while wearing. So the design is forearm based, and it includes the wrist and MCP joints, blocking full composite fist flexion, and there's no motion available or allowed at the wrist. A relative motion extension orthosis, or splint, includes a less restrictive orthosis, allowing more range of motion while wearing it. This orthosis allows the individual to functionally use his or her hand while wearing the orthosis throughout the day, where the other protocol doesn't. This orthosis is hand-based versus forearm-based, and it includes the involved MCP joints, which are placed in relative extension compared to the adjacent joints. The relative motion extension orthosis protocol, the literature showed that they also had better patient compliance as opposed to the controlled active motion protocol, because patients were less likely to take off the orthosis because of how small it was and due to the fact that they could wear it and use their hand throughout the day. So the study also concluded that Controlled active motion protocols were mainly older studies, and there were more tendon re-rupture rates with controlled active motion protocols due to the orthosis being removed more often. This forearm-based larger splint design was part of the issue. And with relative motion extension orthoses or splints, the participants returned to functional activities earlier than the controlled active motion participants. Evidence supported relative motion extension splints over the controlled active motion, although the two weren't directly compared in this systematic review. Now, the case study that I will discuss is a previous patient that I was treating, and he came to therapy 6 weeks post-op. This individual suffered from a work-related injury and required many different surgical procedures to his hand. So this included his index finger, long finger, ring finger were amputated just distal to the MCP joints with digit reattachment. His index finger, long finger, ring finger required an ORIF of each with external fixators as well as K-wires for the fractures. His EDC of all digits was repaired. He required a repair of all joint capsules. He had an EIP repair of his index finger and an EDM repair of his small finger. And finally, this individual had an EPL repair zone T3 of his thumb. So he had a lot of surgical procedures done, and when following week 1 post-op, he was placed in a resting hand orthosis for protection and healing. And he remained in that orthosis at all times per his doctor until he was seen with us at week 6. We then fabricated an orthosis for him to wear only while he was participating in his home exercises that were given to him. So that's the orthosis that I'm going to discuss here next. And in the future, this patient is considering possible PIP arthroplasties to his index, long, and ring finger if the fractures do not heal and if further recommended by his physician. So the materials needed: thermoplastic material, scissors, the hook Velcro, soft straps, a heat or hot gun if you have it, a towel, pencil or pen, a pre-made pattern if you need it. I don't suggest that because you're going to make your own pattern with the involved hand and forearm, and then wound care supplies depending on the injury. So now the first thing you're going to do is begin by creating a pattern on your thermoplastic material. So you're going to place the involved forearm and hand in pronation and trace all the way around the hand and forearm, leaving enough room on the lateral aspects to cover about half the forearm. While tracing, make sure to cover all the fingers involved, and in this case, I traced around all digits due to the nature of the injury. It's easier to cover all the digits and make adjustments later than not have enough material. Now you're going to place it in the hot water and then begin to mold to the involved forearm and hand. Placing the forearm in supination will allow gravity to assist you while molding. And once it begins to mold to the patient's hand and forearm, you're going to use your pen or pencil to start marking off where adjustments need to be made. So this is where it's important to know your landmarks. For this specific patient, I'm making sure all of his digits except his thumb are blocked up to the PIP joint. Initially, the thumb was completely protected, but now I'm allowing the IP free for motion since he's later on in the game. Next, you're going to round all of your edges of the orthosis to ensure it fits properly and the edges are not poking or bothering your patient or rubbing against his skin. One of my students got this for me. I love it. Next, I will be applying hook Velcro and soft straps. So you want to cut 3 pieces of hook Velcro. Use the heat gun if possible to heat up the sticky side of the hook Velcro. This will allow the Velcro to stick better to the material, but it's not necessary. 1 piece, as you just saw, should be placed at the DPC of the palm of the hand, 1 piece just distal to the wrist joint, and the last piece of hook Velcro at the proximal end of the orthosis. You can see now I'm heating up the sticky part of the hook Velcro on each side, and that will allow it to stick a little bit better. And lastly, you want to apply your soft straps. So before applying your soft straps, make sure to round out the edges of the orthosis and flare the proximal end of the orthosis for comfort. Next, measure the soft straps to fit to your patient. Ensure the straps fit around the forearm and hand circumferentially, allowing enough space if there is edema present. Round the edges of the soft straps. And now, depending on your strapping, you can use your pencil to create a half moon shape on the piece of the soft strapping that covers the dorsal metacarpals, and then cut this portion of the strap out. So there's the half moon, cut that portion out, and then this will prevent any edges or digging into your patient's skin while moving. Thank you for watching my video on how to create this orthosis. If you like this video and are interested in learning more about splinting and how to fabricate orthotic devices for your patients, check out my Instagram page, Splinting 101, with the QR code below. Also, for a quick reference tool that you can use in the clinic on hand on basic principles of splinting, as well as step-by-step directions on how to fabricate orthotic devices for the hand and upper extremity, you can check out my Etsy page with the QR code below as well for my Splinting 101 pocket guide.